All right, welcome back, Jeepers. We are in episode 11 of our Jeep 4.0 bolt-on, not so bolt-on performance series. In this episode, we went ahead and changed out the engine. Not that we changed out the engine per se, as much as we took the engine out and replaced the camshaft and a few other little parts inside. We'll go through that in a minute, but let's get started. I've got a couple shots of the motor out and coming apart and a few things, and then we'll tell you what we all did. Okay, so we got the motor over here in the milling machine, and I went ahead and I took about 5 thousandths off the entire deck surface just to get a really nice, good, clean, new head gasket surface. I also went ahead and power washed the block, cleaned it all out really good. I'm going to pull the plugs for the oil passages and blast those out and give this thing a really good scrub down before I go ahead and start putting it together. And this is the fly cutter that I'm using. It's just a big chunk of steel with an insert put in it at an angle, and it just goes, and at a really slow feed rate, it just goes across and it leaves this finish. And we're going to put an MLS head gasket in here, so that's a nice shiny finish for our MLS gasket. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead. The next thing I'm doing over here is I have the cylinder head disassembled, and we're going to do the same thing on here. We're going to deck the bottom, and then I'm going to go in, and because I'm using a different valve spring, the spring pocket, basically where the spring locates on here, I have to make that a little bit smaller, and I have to take it down just a little bit, about 50 thousandths down and a little smaller. So I got to do that. The other thing, I've been on the lookout because I lost one of the keepers. These retainers were really stuck on the keepers, and I was using the mallet to kind of try and loosen them, and one of them like went up into orbit and it's gone. I've been looking around on the floor, and you know, just even with a pretty clean floor, it's like a guy just can't find it. I don't know, it went that away, so it's somewhere in here, but I'm gonna keep an eye out for that, probably place an order for some to be here this week. But yeah, so that's where we're at right now. I'm gonna go ahead, get this block out of here and get the head in, and I'll show you that process. All right, let me show you the carnage that we got over here. Clearly somebody's been in here, replaced the transmission. While the motor's out, I always like to go through and like rewrap that stuff, kind of clean everything up. I'd really like to take it outside and pressure wash it, but I don't think I'm gonna have time for that. I need to keep this project rolling. So it is going to be what it's going to be. And then all throughout over here, there are Jeep parts scattered here to fro. And there is crankshaft and all the parts. It's a hot mess. Pistons over here. Got the pistons in the parts washer. Scrubbing those up. Worth noting, and you're probably not going to be able to see it. Well, maybe if I take it outside here, we can look at it. Power washers out here. I don't know if you can see on there or not, but there's definitely some copper showing through on those bearings, and that's a sign that we were about done. Whether we wanted to be or not, we were. The show was about over. So I do have a new set of rod bearings. I'm going to go ahead and slap those in. They're standard, so I'm gonna go ahead and just slap those in. And yeah, all the bolts and everything's all sitting out. We'll go ahead and get this thing put back together, and like I said, I need to get that valve lock ordered. Keep looking the floor, but you know, I don't think I'm gonna find it. So yeah, but I can go ahead, get everything assembled, get the motor in, and I can put the lock in after everything's in. So let me, I'm gonna go ahead and get that cylinder head loaded in the machine, and I'll show you how we're gonna cut on that. And we'll do some assembly videos, and we'll go from there. All right, it might be a little hard to see, but I've got the cylinder head in there right now and taking a little bit of a cut. And it might seem like it's taking a little bit of a heavy cut, and that's basically because it is. I opted to take a little bit off the head. I took a little bit off the block, and really off the block we just kind of skimmed it just to get it flat. Probably ended up taking about 8 thousandths off the block, and then on the head I'm taking about 18 thousandths roughly. I took a skim pass just to make sure it was flat, and after that I'm taking a little bit heavier cut, and I might do one more little finish pass if it, depending on the surface finish, but I opted to do 18 thousandths just because when I ran the math on where I wanted to be for compression ratio, 18 kind of put us right where I wanted to be, and you can see the step right there that it's cutting. 18 put us right about where I wanted to be. I want to be at about 9.5 to 1, and it takes about 6 thousandths roughly off the head to lower the combustion chamber 1 cc. And so I wanted to go from 58 to 55 cc, so I needed to take about 18 thousandths to get the combustion chamber to the right volume. And let me show you how I worked out that volume. Okay, this is how I calculated the volume. I basically drafted up a copy of the combustion chamber, and I did that kind of using some scaling, and then also using basically a picture, a scan of the combustion chamber, traced it, and then I simply just calculated this area and determined that it's about I think it's right about 6.5 thousandths of an inch gets you 1 cc of combustion chamber volume, which is right in line. I've got a article somewhere as well on here that talks about like small block Chevy and big block Chrysler and some of those other ones, and they're all right around 5 thousandths as well, some of them as high as 7 depending on the combustion chamber size. So 6.5 is very reasonable given what it is. So I calculated that. That's how I came up with 6.5, which, you know, roughly 18 to 20 is where I'm going to end up. Should give me my 3 cc's of combustion chamber volume. Let me show you something else here real quick. Okay, these are the stock numbers. I used the jeepstrokers.com calculator. So the bore and stroke doesn't change at all, 58 cc's. The deck clearance is 215, or I'm sorry, 0.215. Gasket thickness is 0.51, and the dish and the piston 13 cc's. Gosh, I can't talk. Everything else, stock cam. Oh, it didn't post the numbers down there. Well, it's 8.7 to 1. I don't know why it didn't actually calculate the results down here. But so there's that, and then if you compare it to, this is basically all the same numbers, but only 55 cc, and that's the 0.27 gasket that we're going to be using, the Cometic. I didn't actually reduce the deck clearance. I probably could take about 5 off that and rerun these numbers, but everything else basically being the same. The comp cam that we have, that gives us 9.49 to 1, or a dynamic of 8.23. So, and it lowers our quench as well, because before, I think we're in the it was in the 70s. Let's see if I can find that. I know I saved it somewhere else on here. I've got so much stuff. let's see, stock 4.0 compression ratio. Yeah, here we go. This is just a different screenshot of Jeep strokers, but pretty much the same thing, 58 cc's, and all of our stuff being the same. So 8.7 to 1 with a dynamic of 7.47. So we're gonna go from that, oh, and quench, 072. So when we compare that to our -3, you know, of 048 and a dynamic of 823 and a static of 949. So we're gonna get, you know, about a point of static and 823 to 747 dynamic, and then our quench obviously is going down as well. So we're doing all that, you know, hopefully, you know, with the quench being a little tighter, we'll get a little bit better burn. Compression ratio should help our power a little bit. Camshaft's helping our dynamic. And hopefully with all that put together, we can make a little bit more power. So let me get back. I've got a little bit more machining to do, and then I got to go ahead and start assembling this thing. All right, so I have the cylinder head in here now, and let me show you what I'm doing. Starting with the stock spring, basically, seat here. These are like 850 or 830 something diameter, and I need to cut them down like I did this one to 800. So basically taking that, making it a little smaller, and then with the spring I'm using, I need to take this pad right here down about 50 thousandths. So I'm basically just touching off the top here, taking off 50, and as you can see, this is the spring I'm using. It's a little beehive spring. So that one doesn't seat in there nice, but it seats in there. And that'll allow me to have about 525 thousandths of lift with the spring, and still have an extra 60 thousandths before coil bind as a buffer. So it, and these springs, it's about 90 on the seat versus the stock, which is 75. And I think stock open is like 210 or something, and these are like 240 open pressure. So it's going to be a better spring. It just requires a little bit of modification to get it in. It needs to be moved down a little smaller on the seat, and we should be good. Way I'm doing this is I'm touching off each one because there is a little bit of variation. And then I'm going into the valve guide. I'm finding the center of the valve guide, and then basically just cutting that all concentric with the center of the valve guide. So I've got that done on this one right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and close this up, and it's going to start the program. It's kind of just a simple little program to go in and cut these out. And it's kind of long. It takes about 5 minutes each. I'm not trying to set any records here, but it just goes in and cuts that down and makes it like the other one. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, about what, 2, 4, 6, 7 more times after this, and then we'll get this thing out and get it cleaned up. All right, you saw a couple shots there of the engine and what we were working on. I did have to go ahead and replace the pistons. I had another engine, low miles. I took the pistons from that, cleaned them up, put them in here, new rod bearings, and we did put our Comp Camshaft in here with the timing set and lifters. We left the 1.7 roller rockers, and we did that thinner head gasket. That's an 0.27 thick Cometic. We put that in here, and ended up cutting the head right at 20 thousandths, and I took 5 off the block. So that's kind of where we're at. We're in that 9.5, 9.6 to 1 range, and with the camshaft and all that stuff, I think we have about 500 lift on the intake and high 4s on the exhaust. So I think we're gonna let it warm up here. It sounds pretty good. I broke the cam in last night, 2000 RPM for about 20 minutes. It all sounds really good. So I think we're gonna go ahead and warm it up, and we're gonna start with run number 1. All right, we're all warmed up here, rolled out. We got our HP tuners running over there. Dyno's all hooked up. I guess we'll go ahead and do a pull. Hopefully we don't hang some rods out the side. Sounds a little bit sportier. All right, let's see what happens. Seemed like it was still breaking up a little bit on the top. I don't know what that's all about. Let's go take a look at the dyno and see what we got. All right, so it looks like compared to our last best, which was the roller rockers, we're at 175.3 and 197 torque. Yeah, that's not terrible. That's a gain of 15 horsepower and about 7 foot-pounds. Looks like a lot of it's to be had after 4,000, and I'm a little disappointed. It's kind of like it's breaking up here again, and I'm not sure if that's a ignition issue or if it's a fuel issue, but it definitely, like, past 5,000, you can feel it on the Jeep that it kind of is breaking up. And I mean, air fuel's not terrible. I mean, it's 13.5. I mean, that's still. And that may be after it already starts breaking up. I don't know, I'm gonna have to do a little bit of looking. I might pull a spark plug out, take a look at that, and a couple other things. There is a possibility as well that we might be losing fuel pressure. You know, we might be getting to the top of our factory fuel pump. 200 and some odd thousand miles, and who knows when it was ever replaced. Could be that we're dropping fuel pressure up there, although I don't even know that I would expect it to misfire at 13.5. I don't know. I'm gonna have to put some thought into that, and I'll see if I can come up with something. But in the meantime, I'm gonna let this thing cool down for run number 2. All right, so I went ahead and I made some changes in HP tuners. I pulled a couple degrees of timing out on the very top. I think maybe what we're running into is a little bit of pre-ignition. It's really hot out here today. It's like 95, 96 degrees. Along with our increased compression and dynamic compression, we might be flirting with a little bit of pre-ignition that's starting to feel like a misfire. The other thing I wanted to go over real quick is this cam that we put in here. It's a Comp Camshaft 68-231-4, and it's a 206 duration intake and 214 exhaust, and the valve lift is 462 intake and 485 exhaust, which combined with our 1.7s puts us at 491 intake and 517 lift for the exhaust. So just a little bit more than with the cam alone. I've got it warming up here. I'm gonna go ahead, set up, and we'll get started with run number 2. All right, here we go. Okay. Well, that was really bad on top. I don't know what's going on. It seemed like it pulled through really clean, and then on the very, very top, man, it just kind of laid over. Something happened. It's not close to speed cut. It almost felt like a rev limiter a little bit that time. Yeah, I don't know what our rev limiter is. Let's look here in HP. Maybe we're flirting with the rev limiter a little bit. Spark. Trying to remember where they even put that in here. I'm sure somebody's yelling at me, hey idiot, it's right somewhere. Fuel, maybe? General, fuel. I don't see it. Open loop. Cutoff. Here we go. Now 5700s are cutoff. We're not anywhere close to that. Huh. Well, let's go take a look at the dyno and see what it looks like. Well, I guess now I'm officially confused. That run was down just a little bit, probably because we pulled that timing out. 172 and 194. But look at here, right? It's like 4,800. It just kind of nosedives. Like it just turns and heads straight down. I mean, it almost felt like a rev limiter. I don't know what we're fighting there. So it almost kind of seemed like the ignition dropped out or something. I wonder if we're losing the crankshaft sensor or something. Huh. I do have some new parts here. Maybe I could stab some parts on it and see. I mean, we were still getting RPM pickup up there on the HP tuners, but I don't know. I'm gonna do a little bit more investigating. That's really odd. I'm gonna look into that a little bit more, and then we'll let you know what we come up with. All right, let me show you what I'm working with here. I think I found our misfire. You know, this all kind of started after we did the 1.7 roller rockers, and my sort of hypothesis on this whole situation is that the way they do these 1.7s is they basically move the push rod in to increase the ratio. And I think what's happening, if you can look down kind of in that hole there, you can see that the push rod is running really close to the inside of that hole in the head. And I think they're actually hitting, and on this one, you can kind of see right in the middle there, it's shiny. I think at higher RPMs, especially when these things are flexing a little bit, it's hitting, and that's causing these not to return or travel as they should. And I think that's affecting the way our valve train's working. When I'm looking at these 1.6s, you can see the push rod's a lot more centered in the hole. And that's the difference, you know, in essentially this pivot being moved out further this direction, centering it up in the hole. Not really sure what the fix to that is besides, you know, embiggening those holes a little bit. A guy could go in there, I guess, and cut those bigger, but that really requires you to pull the head off and get real crazy with a drill bit or something. So for now, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put our stock ones back on, and I'm gonna do another pull and see if we can get that misfire to go away. Let me get this finished up. I'm on my last couple here, and then we'll warm this thing back up and give it another pull. All right, I'm back. A little bit dirtier, hopefully a little happier, and a little less rocker ratio-y. Turns out I think those were hitting, and that was causing our push rods not to push rod all the time like they should be doing. And it's kind of disappointing. Those are supposed to be just bolt on, ready to go. Obviously not. I think they were even hitting on the stock cam. Yeah, I think there's no really way around that besides opening up the head a little bit, drilling those holes out, and that's not really much of a bolt-on. You kind of got to have the head off so that you're not getting metal shavings down in the lifters. So not exactly what I would call a bolt-on. Hopefully we don't lose a lot of power because of it. I did go into HP, adjusted a little bit more, tried to get things straightened out a little bit better. We're warming up. I think we're about ready to do a pull. In fact, we are right now. So we're gonna go ahead and roll right into run number whatever. I think we're 6 or so. I did a couple pulls off camera, just trying to verify that what we did hopefully made a difference, and I think we're there. I also did a run and checked fuel pressure. and our fuel pressure is holding rock solid at 45. So that's not really a concern, but hopefully we've got this thing fixed. It's getting a little dark, so it might be kind of hard to see. I apologize about that, but I'm determined to get this done. So without further ado, we're gonna go ahead, flip you around here, and we'll start run number whatever. All right, here we go. All right, let's go take a look. Alright, so 179 and 201, and look how much smoother that looks. It still did something up here at the top, and honestly, I can't help but feel like it's some kind of a cut. I don't know, but it's after 5,000, which with this transmission, we're not, we can't really run it past 5,000 anyway, unless we manually shift, which is kind of silly. But looking at the numbers here, this was our rocker. The best that we got of the rockers, 160.2. We're up 20 horsepower. You know, and it kind of starts down here and continues up, you know, by 4,000 RPM, you know, 143 to 151. And kind of our peak spread is somewhere up here, 177 to 153. Let's take a look at this air fuel. Okay, so I got that a little bit better under control, 13.1. I'm not mad at that. That's pretty happy. You know, if I go in and compare this to, that was the best of the rockers, but you can even kind of see up here toward the top, it starts to get real choppy. And you know what we were getting before. So let's pull up like run 1 from today, and let's get rid of this rockers, remove that. So this is our first pull of the day, and you know, you can really see up here it was chopping up real bad. And like I said, for some reason after 5 it's still taking a bit of a nosedive, but quite a bit happier. So yeah, I think that's what we're gonna roll with. There's not much really else we can do here. That's you know, that's a pretty good gain. So just for fun, let's remove that run and let's throw our stock run up here, our best of stock. Oh, come on. There we go. And just the horsepower and torque, because that's all we really care about. So kind of shows the spread, 125 to 179. That's a chunk. It's 58 horsepower. Let's see, 125, 175 would be 50. So 54 horsepower, right? If my math right. Something like that. And torque 158 to 201. That's a chunk from these bolt-ons. And I know the last you know, 20 horsepower was the head gasket. That's not really a bolt-on, but you can even see way down here, you know, 88 to 102. That's a chunk at 2,900. Really curious when we do our stab test if we can determine anything there. But let me go ahead. I'm gonna set up for our 0 to 60, and we'll run that test, then we'll do our stab, and we'll do our conclusion. All right, it's getting darker by the minute. We are set up for our 0 to 60. You're not even be able to really see my foot tonight. All right. 0 to 60 in 3, 2, 1. like that. I like that. Let's go take a look. All right, so this is comparing to the rockers, and once again, looks like we started a little early, but man, you can really see the big thing here is the horsepower and torque difference all the way across. And you know, obviously higher up in the RPM range, it gets to be a bigger spread, but man, there is some really nice gains here in the middle from what we've done. And we didn't even put a big cam in here. You can kind of hear, I mean, it idles like stock. Very, very, very mild. Not exactly sure why I went with such a mild cam. It's been so long ago that I picked it. Kind of wish I would have gotten something with a little bit more lick to it, but it's you know, I think it's really good gains, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So let me go ahead, I'm gonna set up for our stab test, and then we'll wrap this guy up. All right, we're set up for the stab test. I gotta go ahead, or I have it rolling right now. It's yep, sampling. So we can go ahead and start our stab in 3, 2, 1. All right, let's check it out. Let's change this to engine speed. Okay. Kind of goofy there. Had a weird little bump. I'm gonna get rid of torque. Okay, so we're just looking at horsepower for the moment. So starting right here at 2,500 RPM, 72 to 74. That's a couple. It's a couple all the way out until, you know, right at about 3750. There it starts to come apart, and then from there it just goes nuts. Let's pull up our stab from, let's get rid of rocker, move that, and I think the first stab we did was on tune-up. Okay, so we can look at this a little bit better. Horsepower being what it is, and it's kind of weird there. Wait till it stabilizes right here. 62 to 73 at 2,500. That's 10 horsepower, 11 horsepower there. Let's look at torque. Everybody's all worried about the twisting force. So you know, about the time it stabilizes, I don't know. Interesting. So it's more, the stock was a little bit more flat versus you know, now you can definitely tell, especially 3,500 and up, it starts to really really jump up. But right around 2,600, just past torque converter flash up, 133 versus oh, clicked wrong, 133 versus 154. That's 20. So I mean, that's a nice little jump based on the stuff we've done here. So I always just like to compare everything and sort of look back in the past and see what we've got. But that's good information, and you know, I suppose this is as good a time as any. We can go ahead and talk real quickly about the not sure what's going on here. Oh, that was stab. What am I doing? All right, sorry, getting sidetracked. Let's talk about the peak numbers real quick and kind of draw a conclusion on this guy. So, you know, altogether what we've got done right now, we did the camshaft. We went over those specs earlier. It's not a crazy cam. We did some valve springs that basically complement the cam. The only other real changes we made, we took a little bit off the head, a little bit off the block, around about 25 thousandths of an inch between the two. And we also went with that little bit thinner head gasket, which was the 027 off of, I think the stock is like 051. And we went to 027, so about half the thickness of the head gasket there. Bumped us from 8.7, 8.8 all the way to 9.5, 9.6, depending on the numbers. And you know, with the camshaft, that's basically the equivalent of what we've done here today. And when we compare that back, flip you around here, I'm gonna say that we're gonna skip roller rockers because we're back on stock rockers again. Let's just skip that all together, and let's say best of header, which was the run we did just previous to roller rockers. So we went 152 to 179. So I mean, basically, oh, my map, my head hurts. It's too late in the evening for me to be thinking about numbers like this, but 50, 60, 70, so basically 30, so 28 horsepower, 27, 28 horsepower, something like that. That's not a terrible gain for the mods that we've done. Really nothing internal besides the head gasket and a small camshaft. You know, like I said, I really kind of regret not doing a bigger camshaft, something with some really, you know, big lope and a big hit to it. I kind of want to keep this thing drivable, and maybe that's where my head was at when I picked this. It was also, you know, like a year ago, so I'm not even really sure. I've slept since then what I was thinking exactly, but I mean, it still runs really good. It's really strong. We haven't hit our 200 yet. We're 20 off that, and I'm not sure it's got 20 to be had anywhere. Couple things we could do, but honestly, I think we'd be chasing onesies and twosies at this point, short of, you know, changing the cam out for something big, or, you know, changing the piston out for something with higher compression and really going nuts. I think the one thing we are going to do in episode 12, which is unfortunately going to be our last episode, episode 12, I'm going to try and wrap that up maybe tomorrow. I've got our return fuel system, and essentially what that is, if you're not familiar, these, at least the TJs, I don't know, I'm not an XJ guy, I don't know anything about those, the WJ, ZJ, whatever J, all the other Js, but these have a returnless fuel system, meaning the pump in the tank has a regulator on it, and it runs a single line up to the fuel rail, and that fuel just sits in there and gets super duper hot, right on top of the header and the exhaust manifold. And so I've got a regulator. Texas Jeep Products sells a return style regulator that goes in the top of the factory fuel hanger. It has a Bosch regulator built into it, and it is a return style, meaning we can actually run fuel up to the rail, and then we put a Texas Jeep Products fuel rail on it, and then we can come out of the back of the rail and go back to our regulator, and that allows our fuel to constantly be moving through the system, and hopefully maybe will get us some cooler fuel. I don't know. I can tell you, like, it's really hot. I checked fuel pressure on this a little bit ago. I took the Schrader valve out, and it had a ton of pressure. It was boiling the fuel. It's super, super hot. So we might do that, or no, not might. Episode 12, that's what episode 12 is gonna be. I'm gonna go ahead and put that kit on here, and we're gonna try and see if cooling the fuel down a little bit makes a difference at all, or if, you know, we're just chasing more phantom numbers and promises, things like that. So if you want to watch that episode, it's going to be coming up probably a week after this one's posted. And then the really sad news of all of this, I sold the dyno, just kind of on a whim. It's in the way. We do a lot more here besides just working on old Jeeps. We're a full machine shop, and we really need the dock back and the space. So the dyno is going to be going away starting at the end of this week, actually. So after episode 12, that's kind of going to be it. We're going to wrap up the TJ project. There's going to be some other content. I still have the Turbo LJ. We're going to do some stuff on that. There might be some more will it start videos, some things like that. But as far as dyno TJ content, that's kind of going to be the end of it. So but yeah, if you want to watch episode 12, you want to watch more turbo Jeep stuff, NA Jeep stuff, continue watching, subscribing, all that fun stuff. But as always, thanks for watching.